Blessings to you, our friends. We are the Ancestral Medicine Women, healing from the past, for the present and the future. Welcome and thank you all so much for coming to view the third lecture. The third lecture in working with yourself. Remember, we said healing at the very beginning. We were talking about this idea of healing yourself, which is very final, very, what is that word when it's just, that's it, end of the story. It's finite, right? And we said, well, that's very good, but often this idea of healing yourself or changing your life is not a one-step thing or a one-stop shop. It's actually a whole journey. So we like to say working with yourself, because when you're working with yourself, you're not putting demands or boundaries on things and saying, I have to do this, and if that doesn't happen, I'm not well. This way, you have a lot more freedom. And when you say, I'm going to do this, and then that doesn't work, you think, well, that's not the end of the world. It just means I have more work. And working with myself is an enjoyable experience. It's something that I relish because I'm working with myself, for myself. And in that regard, then for everybody. So, thank you again for coming to this third lecture. Hopefully you've seen the first and the second lecture, which will, of course, explain the first two parts of what we are talking about. And this is the last part, which will be a little bit confusing if you haven't seen the first two. So, we begin. So first of all, we want to just quickly recap what we talked about in the first two. The first lecture was about clarity. Now, the important thing about clarity was not just the clear thought, right? It's not just knowing something and maybe having an insight. What was important about clarity was that clarity, after many whys, actually gets you to a point of freedom. And the freedom is about choice. The freedom of choice. So, but it's two things. It's freedom and it's choice. Not just freedom of choice, right? Freedom and choice. So that's what clarity brought to us. When we asked why this, and we would get little epiphanies along the way. Why? And that led us, as we said, to this idea of freedom. What did we mean by freedom? It was not just, as we said, freedom of choice, but it was this feeling within you that you had so much understanding, so much clarity around your issue that it actually gave you some release. So it was like the first step, if you like, in this idea of well, if you want to say healing or working with yourself, it actually gave you this release. It freed you somewhat from whatever the issue was, whatever the problem was. When you have that amount of freedom, then the choices appear. Right? Then they appear. Because before, when you are not having clear thoughts and you're not in this area of clarity, there just seems to be nowhere to go. So you just stay here in this little box. But when you have that little bit of opening up and there's that idea of freedom, you release yourself a little bit, then the choices appear. So then we say you have freedom of choice, right? But you can see that they are very clearly two separate things. The second lecture was about analyzing, interpreting, understanding, and knowledge gaining from the clarity. Because clarity doesn't necessarily give you everything. It just gives you, as we said, the freedom and then the choice. What happens next is then looking at all of the choices and the freedom that you've gained and then your issue in a whole new light. What we have found is that what happens is when people get to this point of freedom and then choice, and they still have their issue there, they get to this point of incomprehensibility and they don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. They've had all of these epiphanies, they've got some freedom, they've got some clarity, and they've got some choices, but the same thing is still happening. It's still occurring, constant. Maybe it happens a year after, or the same week. It doesn't matter. It still happens. And that's when you really need to go into this analyzing of the choices, analyzing of what you thought was the problem. Because it actually might turn out that that's not the problem, right? It might be something else underneath. So you have the freedoms and you have the choices, but it's still always occurring, the same thing. So that's when you go into this other section, analyzing, looking at and interpreting. Is that really my issue? Or is there something underneath there that I really need to work on? Is this the smoke screen? And that's the point, as we said, the point of incomprehensibility, because you don't know where to go. And that's when you have to go back, as we say, to the beginning of your issue and say, right, now I have to analyze, interpret, and look at this issue, get some more knowledge around this issue. Because I have clarity on that issue, I have freedom and I have choices, but I still am in that issue. That thing is still happening. And that's what we call, you've reached the point of incomprehensibility, and you have to go into it more, but back, in a way, back to the beginning and come again. So they are the first two lectures. We have given very brief accounts of it, what it is. If you are confused and you haven't heard the first two, you have to go back and listen, because we've just, as we said, given a brief account. So now we go on to the third part of our working with yourself. So the third part of working with yourself is what we call action. It's the action part. And you might say, but really, mothers, I've been in action the whole time, from the beginning of getting my clear thoughts and getting to my freedom and my choices, and then discovering that actually I'm also in a point of incomprehensibility, and then I go back to the beginning, and I'm acting all the time. I'm always in action. But what we're talking about is something different. Because action is, yes, you're doing all of that, but it's very much yourself, right? It's very much you're acting on yourself. The real test of any kind of change, of any kind of healing, if you want to use that word, is taking it out to the world and actioning it, right? Actioning it. And that's what we really mean. We don't mean doing, working on yourself and going to different healers and trying to work things out. That's not what we mean. We now mean you've done all of that. Now take it out to the world and try it on for size. See if you fit into that skin. Because that's the real test. Do you actually fit in that new skin? If you don't feel you fit into that new skin, then either that skin is not for you, or there is other work to be done. Right? Because the whole idea of when you have some sort of issue, whatever it might be, is that you are looking for change. There is a change that you are looking for. So you start up here with clarity, and then you come down to, as we said, point of incomprehensibility, and then you go into the analyzing and the interpretation and what have you, and then you come up the other side with the change, right? Sometimes people think that's enough. That's it. That's the new self. I've done all of this work, and there I am, right? But what we say is, yes, very good, well done. Now go out into the world and actually act in that. Be that. And people say, oh, but if I have gone through all of this, then the change will have occurred. Cognitive, physical, whatever, it will have occurred. But what we say is, yes, it will have occurred. But if you don't go out into the world and action it, it doesn't matter that this has occurred. It doesn't matter, because you have to actually live it. You have to actually breathe it. You have to take it out to the world and say, this is who I am now. This is who I want to be. This is how I want to live. And I'm going to actually do it. I'm not going to just passively allow all of the work that I have done to show itself. I'm actually going to take it and go out into the world. Now, that might seem like it's a very easy thing, but it's not. It's actually very difficult. Because you have to now make the statement. You have to go out into the world and make this statement. And not just make the statement of whatever the change is, but then you also have to elicit that positive change in your being, you have to elicit that responding statement from all of those around you. You can't just expect that people are going to see this change, that they're just going to, oh, that person has changed, very good. You have to actually go out there and be this new being, and that takes action. Action. Let's look at a small example. Let's just say that you feel that you're overweight, right? And you want to go on a diet. So, Monday's the day. Everybody starts the diet on a Monday. So you start the diet on the Monday. Before that, you've made the decision that you're going on a diet, right? Now, before you get to that decision that you're going on a diet, you will have gone through clarity, right? You will have gone through all of that because something in your being is saying, I don't like this anymore. I want to change. What is it about myself? Sometimes it's very obvious, right, that you're overweight, and that's going to change your whole life, right? That's the first step. So you've got that clarity, right? It might have taken you 1 minute, it might have taken you 3 years to get to that point. Doesn't matter, but you're there. So then you go through that whole, I'm going to go on a diet on Monday. Right, what kind of diet am I going on? So then you do your research, right? And then so that's sort of like, if you like, the second part. This analyzing and interpreting. What kind of diet am I going on? So you do that. Then you go and buy all of your stuff and think, that's action. Right? That's what you think, that's action. It's not action. That's just, you're still in clarity. You're still over here. And the second, the interpretation. Let's just call it analyzing, right? So that we all can, we can stop repeating several words. The analyzing part. So that's what you do, right? And you go into that. Monday you start. You're very excited. You've got all this special food, and you've got your diet. And Monday you start the diet. Maybe you go to work or what have you. Maybe you do some exercise, and you feel really good. Tell everybody at work, I'm on a diet. I'm on a diet, good. Next day, same thing, and it goes on. Now, we would say to you that that day that you decided to go on the diet, you've already gone through the clarity, that day was what we would call a new state of being, right? You decided. So the new state of being is not the thin person at the end where you're aiming for. The new state of being is as soon as you make that decision to go on the diet. That's it, right? Now, when on the Monday comes and you actually are really, eating the food and doing the exercise and whatever, and you're actually acting, right? You're in action of the diet, right? And as we said, you go on. By Wednesday, you're getting the cravings, right? The first couple of days, the body can cope. But by Wednesday, you want the sugar, you want the coffee, you want this and that. You want some cake. And this is sort of like the action test. This is the test that says to the world, the action test, I'm in business. This is the new me. This is my change. I've already made the change. I decided that I'm going on a diet. This is it. And this is one of the points where you're going to be tested. And somebody offers you something. Oh, look, just have a little bit. It's not a big drama. It's just a little bit of sugar in your coffee, or it's just one piece of chocolate. And you relent, right? And you do it. You immediately feel guilty. You immediately feel that you have failed yourself. So where are you? Are you in action, or have you gone all the way back to clarity? We would say you've gone all the way back to clarity, right? Because now you have to think, why did I do that? Why would I sabotage myself? Why would I do that? But in this instance, you're also still in action because you've gone out into the world with your new state of being, and you're trying to enact it, right? So when you're healing with yourself, when you're working with yourself, we've said it's in 3 steps, right? Because we've done three lectures, but it's also, once you have sort of cleared the clarity and the analyzing and you go into action, it all starts to mishmash, right? And it goes back and forth. And the key, and the diet is a good example, is not to feel that you failed, not to be disappointed that you have to go back up to clarity and say, why did I have that? Why would I do that to myself? Why am I sabotaging myself? Why don't I want to lose weight? And these are the real questions, right? More clarity comes. So, every time you're in action, for example, and there is a relapse, or there is, you let yourself go a little bit, and you feel, I can't do it, I'm hopeless, everything, it just keeps happening again and again and again, you go back to clarity. And you look at clarity and you say, why? Why did I do this? Why did I do that? And you keep doing it. And it's like a seesaw, right? You got clarity, analyzing, action. Oh, we're coming back again because we've done this. So the beauty of this system is that that's absolutely okay, because that's exactly whatever your particular problem is requiring. It requires a lot of you. It requires a lot of you. And what are you doing? But you're working with yourself, right? So, the action part that we're talking about now is absolutely vital, because that's the only way, when you go into the world and say, this is what I'm doing, this is who I am now, that you're going to fall flat on your face. And you're going to do it publicly. You're going to make mistakes. Then you come back up to this beautiful place of clarity and you ask again, why? Why would I do this to myself? Here I am. I've decided I'm going to go on the diet. I've investigated all of the diets. I've gone and bought the food. I've told everybody I'm doing this. I've psyched myself up. I've signed up at the gym. I've bought the shoes. I've done all of that. And yet on the third day, I do that. Why? Back up to clarity. And now we're really getting down to business. Why would you do that? Why would you sabotage yourself like that? Right? And you're going down. Right? And so we would say clarity is vital. Analyzing, vital. But without action, you've got nothing. You've got nothing. You will never change your way. Never. Ever. Make no mistake. You will never change. You will keep repeating. Repeat. But action, when you go out, you take yourself out into the world in this new state of being. That is when everything is tested. Your resolve, your understanding, your self-identity, your self-worth, everything is tested. And when you fall down, because most people do, it's very normal. Lots of people then, they say, I can't do it. I'm just hopeless. I'm useless. We would say, yep, right, say that to yourself. But go back to clarity and say, why am I hopeless and useless? Why? Right, get back up there. Step back up on that horse or that bicycle or whatever that saying is, right? And let's start again. Let's go again. And that's why sometimes working with yourself on any problem, could be something quite small, can take an entire lifetime, can take a year, whatever. The thing is that one issue that is a really big thing in your life, or something that's really irritating, you will find is not one issue, but many. And those many make up the person that is you. Right? They make up the person that is you. So it is very important that you really know, to really change your life, to really move on and to grow and develop, is to know yourself. It's an old saying, but it's so true. And how are you going to know yourself? You're going to know yourself because you're going to go out into the world and you're going to be acting and you're going to find out that you actually haven't healed or you haven't grown and you're back to this same behavior again. That's how you get to know yourself. Because when that happens, then you say, but why? But why? And maybe you're going to need help. Maybe you're going to need to go to a psychologist or a counselor or maybe a tarot card reader or some spiritist or a kinesiologist or chiropractor or something. Maybe you're going to have to do that. So they can help you answer this why. But the more you get to know about each other, yourself, the more you get to know about yourself, the more you can act and not fall. Right? And you keep going, and you keep acting, and you keep taking yourself out there, and you keep trying that skin on for size. Maybe this is the one. Maybe this is the skin. I keep trying it on for size. And it's exciting, even when you fall down and you think you're making the same mistake again. It's actually exciting because you're finding out about you. This creation. This marvelous, wonderful, unique creation that nobody else is like, and nobody else can have an idea about. You're finding out about it, right? Every single time. It's exciting. Yes, it can be upsetting, and yes, it can be history repeating itself, and you don't want that to happen, but remember, this is you. Every little tiny detail, it's you. So, come back to clarity. Let's have another look. Let's have another ask. Find another way. Take it out there. Take it out to the world and experiment with it. Show it to the world. But you have to act. You have to act. We can't stress that enough. It's absolutely the most important thing that you will ever find in your life is the action. That's it. So, action is vital. We give that to you as a gift, this idea of action. We hope that you have enjoyed these lectures as much as we have enjoyed giving them to you and communing with you and talking to you and sharing with you and connecting with you. We send many blessings to everybody who listens to these. Many, many blessings, and we thank you so much for taking the time out of your life to commune with us. Thank you. Thank you.
Blessings to you, our friends. We are the Ancestral Medicine Women, healing from the past for the present and the future.